American 11, are you trying to call?
The cockpit is not answering their phone. Our number 1 has been staffed, and our 5 has been staffed.
Hey, I'm going to call from Washington. I am in a situation with American 11, a possible hijack.
What's going on, Betty? The aircraft is erratic again. Problems very erratic. Betty, talk to me. Betty, are you there? Betty? Betty?
A plane just
What?
the 737.
What?
The World Trade
Who are you
Center.
talking to?
Oh, God. Oh, my God.
United 175, New York. We have some problems over here right now. We might have a hijack over here, 2 of them.
Jules, this is Ryan. Lives on an airplane that's been hijacked. If things don't go well, and it's not looking good, I just want you to know I absolutely love you. I want you to do good. So happy this time. Same to my parents and everybody. And I just totally love you, and I'll see you later, Jessica. Bye, babe.
What are those people going to do? All the elevators are blocked out.
Oh my God. So both towers are now.
Okay, I got an aircraft 6 miles east of the White House.
Crystal City, just north of Crystal City.
Just to the north of your town.
Yeah, stop all departures.
Pentagon just got hit. Don't for me that. God damn, I can't even protect my NCA.
United 93, that traffic for you is 1 o'clock, 12 miles eastbound 370.
Negative contact, we're looking United 93.
United 93, Cleveland, if you hear the center right then.
I got that piece of dog. Keep remaining steady. You have the ball hold.
Tuesday, 9:47 a.m.
Hi, baby. Baby, you have to listen to me carefully. I'm on a plane that's been hijacked. I'm on the plane. I'm calling from the plane. I want to tell you I love you. Please tell my children that I love them very much. And I'm so sorry, babe. I hope to be able to see your face again, baby. I love you. Bye.
We're 56865. We have, I believe it is a Boeing 757. Can you see him up there, sir?
That's confirmed. It looks like he's rocking his wings.
Roger.
He's rocking back and forth.
Number 56865, I advise you stay away from that aircraft. Go north as fast as you can.
United 93, have you got information on that yet?
Yeah, he's down.
He's down?
Yes.
When did he land?
He did not land.
Oh, he's down?
Yeah,
Down?
somewhere up northeast of Camp David.
Sean, it's me. I just want to let you know I love you, and I'm stuck in this building in New York. There's lots of smoke, and I just wanted you to know that I love you always.
At number 2 World Trade Center, right. Lady was stewardess in the office. We're not ready to die, but it's getting bad.
I'm on the 83rd floor. I'm gonna die, aren't I? No. I'm gonna die.
Liv, say your prayers.
God.
We're gonna think positive because you gotta help each other get off the floor.
I'm
Now,
gonna die. I know.
A new type of war. That's what it is.
My day started for September 11th, actually, on September 10th. I go into work that night, start at 11:30. 8 o'clock in the morning rolls around, the end of our shift. I leave the building to head back home. It was the first day that my two boys were going to be in school full time, and actually I could get some sleep. So I'm on the train going home, and I was listening to a radio show, and they were talking about a plane that had hit the Trade Center.
This just into our newsroom, a plane has crashed into the World Trade Center.
Standing on the top of my roof, and I'm looking at the World Trade Center, and there's a huge hole in it. You can hear from the fire trucks that there's a lot of fire personnel and police personnel over there.
Went home, turned on the TV, and then we saw the second plane hit. And then I knew right away I had to get back to work. I absolutely knew we were under attack. And it was going to be us to defend the city.
You know, we were just doing our job. And to this day, it still haunts me.
I joined the Emergency Service Unit in 1987.
The Emergency Service Unit is the unit that does everything that the actual foot cop can't do. The old saying is, the people need help, they call the police. When the police need help, they call the Emergency Service Unit.
Most people across the country would know that as SWAT, except it's also a high-risk rescue unit.
We do everything from pull people out that got run over by subway cars, pull people off bridges and buildings. We're it. You know, we don't leave until the job is done, no matter where it is, what it is. On 9/11, I was already retired 6 years, and my wife is just happy to have me retired. She said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to work. My people are in there." She's like, "You're retired." No, I'm not. My people are in there. So I left her crying at the door.
I ran up to my lock. I said, I'm going to grab my stuff, jump in the back of the truck, the big ESU truck. I'm going to grab everything off my locker except pants. So I had a shirt, I had shorts on, which were jorts, which I hear coming back in style. I tell the sergeant, I don't have my pants. He said, don't worry about it, you're not going to need them. Now, at the time, we didn't realize what type of plane this was until we got down there, and then things changed. I was the senior person on scene for my squad at that time when we arrived, and I didn't have pants on, so I became the truck one chauffeur. We're going to put teams in, one team in the North Tower, one team in the South Tower. Everybody's going to respond to me. I was the mobilization point for ESU. If I'm wearing my full uniform that day, you know, like I should have had with me, then maybe I'm not the truck one chauffeur. And maybe I'm one of the teams that goes to the South Tower. I think that if somebody came up to us and said, I built this building and it's gonna fall, and I transmitted that to the guys in the building, they would have just moved faster. Every single one of those guys would not have done anything different.
Well, what came down, though? What came down? The crash. The other trade center's down. It's down. It's down. What's down? The other trade center's down.
We arrived on the scene just as the second tower had finished collapsing, and the guys and girls coming from the Trade Center were just covered in dust, bleeding, hurt, limping, carrying each other.
With all that massive debris field, there was not one thing that was discernible as an office. So I remember thinking, if hardened furniture didn't have a chance to survive, what chance did a person have?
I get to this guy who's waving his flashlight, and I just come over to him. I look in this hole, it's about the size of a manhole. And he says, there's 2 cops in this hole. I can hear him, but I can't see him. So Patty McGee comes in behind me.
And I remember the fire department would say, you gotta get out of there, you gotta get out of there. The other buildings are coming down, you know, it's too dangerous. And Scott and I made a conscious decision that, yeah, it's too dangerous, but we're not leaving these 2 cops here. It's not happening.
You the Marine? Yeah. Scott Strauss, Emergency Service Unit.
The move to the World Trade Center is probably one of the few times that Hollywood made something less intense than it was. We were squeezing through areas that were so tight. You just had to pull yourself through. Some of the I-beams were burning hot, and you had to get by as quick as you can. You had to twist around another one and up around, and there was no room for us to turn around to even get out if we had to. We would just crawl and crawl deeper in there, and I said to myself, I asked my kids to be good. I asked them to take care of Mom. Make me proud. And I apologized for getting myself killed. I said that all of myself down as I was crawling down to this hole because I didn't think we were getting out of there. You get down to the bottom on this 20-foot angle, and you could see Will. And he was in this tiny little opening about 20 feet away from us. And I'm just clawing away with my bare hands at the rubble that's around Will. And he's talking to me, and he's in bad shape. He keeps talking about his partner. You gotta get to my partner, you gotta get to my partner. And the buildings 4 and 5 are starting to collapse on top of them and on top of us. And they're yelling down to us, get out of there, guys, get out, you gotta get out, we gotta get out of here. The buildings are coming down, we can't control the fires. So Will looks at me and he says, you're not leaving me, are you? I said, no, we're not leaving. I wanted to go, but there's no way I could leave him to die. So we stayed.
They were the only 2 people that we pulled out.
Scott Strauss, myself, were awarded the police department's Medal of Honor. Now, I personally don't think I deserved it. I just did my job, you know. Unfortunately, we lost 14 in the emergency service unit and another 9 in the police department, and then the fire department had lost 343.
It was a big loss for us, and still 20 years. I've never missed being down at the World Trade Center on 9/11. You know, I had to help my people.
The retirees that I know, 99% of them responded to the scene to see if they could help. And I think it's a general consensus. While a retiree has no obligation, they have a duty. It's in their lifeblood to help people.
When everybody's running out, we're running in. And if an event like that happened again, we're going to respond the same way. You know, we're going to put our lives in jeopardy to save your life.
The next day, it was all rescue.
It was a teamwork effort. Fire department, police department, emergency service unit, you know, not one person did everything.
September 11th, I was a recruit with the NYPD, training to become a police officer. We were working long hours, but those guys that were down there were working like in and out, no breaks. Like they'll come out, have a drink of water, go back out there.
I slept on a cot that night on the West Side Highway. Woke up the next morning, and I did that for another 2 days, going over the pile.
That first week was just one long day, until a week later, I heard on the radio, it's been a week since the World Trade Center day, on the 9/11. I'm like, wow, it's been a week.
Just one day morphed into the next. There was a time where we're all so tired and we're on our way, and I don't know what day it was, but we're on our way back down to the pile, and we're in a police van, and people are applauding us as we get closer to ground zero. People are lined the streets with signs, thank you, and you're our heroes. And we were like, listen, what are we, in a fire truck? Because everybody loves a fireman, nobody likes a cop.
It was like you were almost like a movie star. The amount of love we got from the public was incredible, incredible.
For the days and weeks after, no matter where we were, people were thanking us. And it was great to see the patriotism from everyone in New York.
I think September 12th brought us together because we needed each other's help. Without each other's support, I don't think we would have pulled through.
We had so many New Yorkers coming, what can we do, what can we do? I'll never forget this. So many people stepped up, really.
The entire country, everybody came together. We were one nation. It wasn't just the firefighters. It wasn't just the police officers. There were civilians in that building helping civilians get down those stairs. People just doing what they had to do, doing what was right. Nobody cared about anything else other than helping the guy next to you.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm glad you could join us for this 9/11 memorial stream. It has been 20 years since September 11th, 2001, and I just wanted to put something together so that we could remember the victims, the 2,996 victims that died within that 24-hour period, and the countless others that died after that because of those tragic events. I want to thank Angle Doom first off for joining me here tonight to remember this event, and we will have a short message later from the Mad Tinkerer, who was able to, despite some technical difficulties, record a short message for us. And that's about it. Mike, can you tell me where you were on the morning of September 11, 2001?
I was working at a place called Flexible Foam in my hometown. It'd probably been like about, I don't think me and Laura have been even married about a month. But I was working these grueling like 12 to 14 hour shifts every day, and it was just, it was typical morning, hot, and yeah, I had a good crew of guys just working around, and you were listening to like a classic rock station out of Fort Wayne. And all of a sudden the music just stopped. And they started reporting that a plane had wrecked into one of the buildings in New York. Now, we thought it was a joke at first, and didn't think anything of it, but then it kept on, like, it didn't come back on. And then, like, the DJ was coming back on and was like, well, we're not, it's not a joke. And we're just kind of like, okay, this is before, like cell phones or anything else like that. You really couldn't check anything at that time, there was really nothing to look at,
Right.
Just everything from the radio that we were hearing, we were just kind of freaking out. And, it was probably about, 9 o'clock, I think, when everything first started happening.
Yeah, I think the first plane hit the tower at, I want to say 8:49 or something like that.
Yeah, I think we started hearing about it around 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
And that was probably right around just after our first break, I would say. So we're just getting right back into work, and there's no way to really kind of clarify what was going on until, like, I lived maybe 5 minutes, and usually during lunchtime, we would all run up to my apartment and kind of hang out for a bit while we had our lunch, and then we would go back to work. They got up to my apartment, and, you know, Laura had been watching the news all morning, and her face when we all walked in there, and she's like, you can't believe it. See it.
Right.
She was watching VH1. Okay.
Yeah.
So she remembers. But yeah, she's just like, it's just, she had no words, you know. So we're just all huddled around my TV, just watching it all and absorbing it all. And it's all we could think about at work was just like, it's horrific. How the hell does this happen? And I think not too long after, but I think when we were watching is in the second.
Yeah.
And then you start hearing the reports about what happened with the plane, I think that was found in Pennsylvania.
Right.
And you just start wondering about, you know, of course, everything just going wild. Again, you're not getting news like you can like today, you know, where it's like instantaneous, you know, it's on the ground. You can have your phone out there right now. So you're just, you don't know. You're just speculating until you get off work. And I think I didn't get off work until like 7 or 8 o'clock that night. And, you know, still to go back and is still watching the videos over and over again and things that, you know, Laura had been watching all day. It even got to a point where she's like, I can't watch it anymore. I just can't. I ended up spending most of the night because I, you know, it was just unreal. You just never seen anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, well, we hadn't seen any event like that previously, at least not in any memorable history. I mean, there's been other terrorist attacks, obviously, before that and since, but
Right.
nothing with that magnitude, really.
No, not of that kind of magnitude. And the most shocking thing I can ever remember most of my life is probably when the Challenger. You know, but this was just, I don't, you know, you can't really explain it, you know. It's just, it was an here, you know, you never think that it would ever happen here.
Right.
You know, or any kind of attack, really.
Now, from my perspective, I remember very vividly I was working at a telecommunications company, which is a company term for telemarketer. I was not happy at that job. It was just something that, you know, I did as a young adult, and I, now looking back on it, really wish I hadn't done that job in the first place because I absolutely despise telemarketers. But at the time, it was a job. And that morning, we typically got there about 9 a.m. and started working usually by 9:15 or 9:30, as soon as it was legally and still is legally, you're able to call people and try to sell them bullshit, you know. So we had just gotten started, and all of a sudden our phone bank went dead. Like, the whole system crashed. And that wasn't necessarily unheard of, but it was kind of weird for it to happen first thing in the morning. And everybody's, you know, standing up, looking for a supervisor. What's going on? What are we going to do here? And they ended up coming out about 15 minutes later. And by then, you know, the whole floor was kind of restless, and they got everybody's attention and said, well, we have reports here that there's been an event in New York City, a terrorist attack, and we're still getting details on that, but it looks like there was a huge loss of life, and we're talking with the company and seeing what's going to happen. And about 20 minutes later, the general manager came back out and said, okay, we're going to send you folks home, because not only was there this massive event that happened, but thankfully, they recognized that there was no way that we would want to be calling people, trying to sell them something during all of this happening. And I'll get to a little bit more on that here in a second, but we ended up going home. I ended up not actually going home. I, at that time, I believe was, let's see, that was 2001, so I was 19. And I had already moved out by that point, and I ended up going back to my mom's house that day. And our family basically was doing the same thing, watching the TV the rest of the day, the reports and seeing the information that was coming in, and trying to figure out, you know, if anything, what we should do about that. Were we going to, you know, just go about our daily lives? Obviously, that's not something that you think about when a tragedy like that strikes. What are we going to do tomorrow? Well, we don't know yet. We really don't. And I remember the whole next couple of days, it was so surreal, just trying to figure things out, and what are we going to do next? What does this mean for the rest of our lives? So, getting back to the telemarketing company, the next day, President Bush, on September 12th, had declared a national day of mourning, and all businesses except for those things that were absolutely necessary were closed. So our company was closed, as were many other things. And but then coming back on September 13th, and I'll never forget this, we came in that morning, and the general manager held a meeting and said, well, as much as we want to take more time off for this, the people in charge of the company decided that we needed to go ahead and continue trying to do business. So literally less than 48 hours after this event had occurred, we were then trying to sell the same old bullshit, credit card programs and whatever else, because of the corporate interest there. And they, of course, even gave us this script that said, well, we perfectly understand in this time of emergency, you know, we don't want to do da-da-da-da, whatever BS they were coming up with. And so many people that day. Thankfully, there wasn't nearly as many calls as there would have been on a normal day. But so many people that day were irate just because the phone rang and it was one of us. And it was at that point that I decided absolutely no, I do not want to continue in this as a job. And it wasn't long after that that I left that place. And I gotta wonder if any other telemarketing companies did the same thing. Because to them it was business as usual, and yeah, we took a break and took some time to mourn the loss of these individuals, but then the bottom line comes into play again. And it just really showed me what a lot of corporate America is about at the tender age of 19.
I don't even remember us having the day off after. It was still just the same old. I still think I put in another 14-hour day the next day. It was just business as usual, you know. You just had to kind of deal with it in your own kind of way as you worked. You know, I really didn't have much time to even process it until I think the weekend even came around when, you know, they're still, you know, digging through the rubble. They're still talking about, you know, finding people, and, you know, the death keep on rising at this point, you know, and like the first responders now who are, you know, sick and dying, you know, because of all the inhalation and everything else that they had to deal with. And, you know, these brave men and women who just went out there so self-sacrificing themselves to save another.
Yeah.
You know, and you just kind of have to go on. I was peeling carpet. I was not doing anything important, you know, that I felt like it was important in my life. I'm peeling carpet, but plenty of time to sit there and think about everything.
Yeah.
I think that was the part that really kind of sucked, you know.
Now, the two videos that I showed here at the beginning, they're not my productions. I kind of stole those from YouTube. To me, the first one kind of represented the horror and the fear and anxiety that the events of that day brought forth, and really portrayed that well, especially in the messages that were left by people, knowing they were going to die and saying goodbye to their loved ones. That I think is very indicative of exactly what just about everybody was feeling on that day to one degree or another, although obviously we weren't in, their position where there was a loss of life or serious threat to us. The second video I played because, to me, and I'm not going to get political about this because that's the last thing that I ever want to do at this stage in my life. But I can't help but think of people that last summer were using the phrase defund the police. And to me, a lot of those people, granted, there's so many things that are wrong with the police, and innocent people that get shot, a lot of different things that happen and are caused by the police that are definitely not good things in our society. But to say that you don't want to, have a police force is almost to me like saying you don't want to have a fire department, you don't want to have an EMS squad, you don't want to have these first responders that are the people that go into dangerous situations like that and save people. At the very least, going in there and having the courage and the wherewithal to face that danger and just go in and do their job, like the guy said. And I hope that remembering 9/11 in this manner reminds a lot of folks just why those people are necessary, and it's not going to be a good thing if we don't hone in and really be specific with the people that we are taking to task for issues like innocent black children being shot in the streets. You cannot paint the entire police force with that same broad brush and say, sorry, we're just going to take away all of your money to be able to do your job effectively and safely and get home to your families. And I think we really have a lot of people in our society that have forgotten exactly what this caused in our society. A lot of people, and I was just speaking to you, before the stream about how many people now were very young at the time it happened. I mean, I'm 39, about to be 40. You're a little bit older. We were adults when this event occurred. And how many people now were either very young when it happened and they may not remember it, or may not remember it as clearly because they were so young, or weren't even born. I mean, we have friends in our streaming community that were not born when this had occurred, because it was literally 20 years ago, and we've got people we know that are under 20 years old. So I do think it's also very important that we pass along this information to future generations. Not even so much in a manner of, here's this horrible thing that happened in history, because there's a lot of horrible things that happened in history. But looking at it from a perspective of, how do we create a better world? And if we're attempting to do that, what kind of information are we trying to pass along? So at this point, I want to go ahead and switch over real quick, and I'm going to play the short video from Mad Tinkerer. He recorded the other night on his stream, and unfortunately had some technical difficulties, and he said he spoke for about 15 minutes, not realizing that his mic was on mute. So he was basically going, and yeah. And it's very sweet, but yeah, then he realized his mic was off about 20 minutes into the stream and fixed it, and he did give us a short summation of what it was that he had said in the beginning part of his video, and that's the part that I captured from his stream, and I'm going to play it for you right now.
What it amounted to is that was one of the days in my life where I knew it was never going to be the same again. And up to that point, you know, the world wasn't too bad. You know, the bubble that I lived in wasn't too bad. And that bubble totally got burst that day. And it got burst for a lot of people. And some much more tragically than, obviously, personally myself. But unfortunately, the amount of Islamophobia that sprang from it, and how our government, we had the entire world on our side, and we fumbled the ball so hard. And our government did, you know, and the world's a much different place because of it. I think the world could have been a better place, and I think it still can be a better place if, you know, just don't be assholes. You know, you can have your own opinions, you can have your own thoughts, but we all gotta watch out for each other. There's bigger problems than the little ones that powers that be try to divide us with. So just try to be a little kinder, and a little kindness can go a long way. So that's all I have to say about that.
And I mean, really, that's the whole kit and caboodle right there. Just be kind. Spread more kindness in this world. Mike, you are my friend because you are one of the kindest people I know. You are Mr. Bottled Sunshine, and that goes enormous lengths in people's lives. I'll relay a short story here. I drive for Uber. Can't stand Uber. I'm looking to get out of driving for Uber for a number of different reasons, primarily because of Uber itself. The company is not real great in my opinion. And in general, I'm also not a big fan of people, especially since COVID. People in general seem to have lost that kindness, have not been able to see things from other people's shoes. And one of the things that I did is for a number of reasons, but I'm pretty introverted myself. It takes me a long time to warm up to people. I want to get to know you. I want to judge you as a person by your actions and see who you are before I start engaging with you on a more personal level. And yet, like apparently a bartender or a taxi driver, there's a lot of people that get into an Uber and all they want to do is talk. Here's a new person we haven't met before. Let's ask them, 10 million questions about how they like Uber, and do you live in the area? How long you been doing this? And then you even get the occasional person that wants to discuss philosophy and religion and the arts and whatever else. And I'm like, no, I just want to focus on the road. I'm driving your butt to this location. Let's make sure you get there in one piece. And I literally had to put a sign in my car saying I am an introvert. Conversation distracts me. may cause anxiety, and I'd rather just focus on the road. So please, just let me do that. And since I put that sign up, most people respect it. But the reason I brought that story up is because I also put on that same sign, please just be kind. You never know what somebody else is going through. And I totally agree with Mad Tinkerer in that everybody could do a better job of just being kinder in this world and spreading kindness and just being kind to other people. Even me and my brother Joel's late cousin Brian had started a Facebook page called Operation Mankind, and that was the whole premise of that is just random acts of kindness to other people. Where would we be if the world was a kinder place? So, Mike, did you have any further thoughts that you wanted to share?
No, I think Mad Tinker pretty much hit it on the head. I've known Eric for a very long time, and he is a very shining example of just positivity. And I learned it from watching him.
Oh, there you go.
So he hit the nail on the head. Just be kind.
All right. So a couple of things down at the bottom of the screen here. I've got 3 lines of information. The first is if you would like to gather more information on the events of 9/11. I posted a link there, tinyurl.com/DUVX4FC. That is not a, how shall I say, a random thing that I just popped up there. All that does is it links to the Wikipedia page for 9/11, where if you're not familiar with what happened on this day 20 years ago, that is a pretty accurate portrayal of the events, the timeline, and other facets of what occurred. Without getting into any conspiracy theories, there's been a long time running theory for 20 years now that the government was behind 9/11. I don't know. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't. Probably not. Maybe parts of it, who knows. We're not going to get into that because in remembering the victims of 9/11, it doesn't matter who did it. I mean, yes, in the broad spectrum of things, maybe you want to find some justice and you put the people who are responsible for it behind bars. But when it comes to remembering and honoring the innocent souls that passed before their time on that day, that doesn't matter. It really doesn't. So just to get a basic idea, I would think, of how the events played out, the Wikipedia page, I think, is one of the most comprehensive information sources on the events of that day. And then below that, I'm recommending 2 charities that if you would like to do something further in the monetary sense, one of them is Tunnels to Towers. That is an organization that ensures that the families of any first responder that died during the events of 9/11 is taken care of. Housing, education, food, their needs, seeing what they need and filling those needs. And they have since, in the past 20 years, expanded that role to include all first responders. So anybody that has lost a parent in and they were police, fire, EMT, or anything like that, Tunnel to Towers takes care of those folks and makes sure that their families are taken care of. The other there is Tuesday's Children, and that was the best charity organization I could find that cares for the children of everybody else that passed in 9/11. The folks that were unfortunately caught up in that tragic event and passed, but they were not first responders or someone related to that. So either one of those charities are very good, in my opinion. They both rate very high on Charity Navigator, and they look like really good organizations to take care of those two facets of this, the folks that were left behind. I did want to read this. Malaysia said, if I hadn't decided to go into Duem's stream just an hour after the first time I met him in my stream, I wouldn't be part of this community. He ended up in my stream somehow and seemed cool, so I checked him out. His positivity blew my mind. I was ultra jaded about Twitch because of previous issues. Duem honestly changed my life just by being himself, and it means a lot. Yes, I think that's just about how everybody feels about you, Duem. And now your turn to beat red, so. All right.
Happy to be here.
Yeah. So, Duem, I really appreciate you joining me for this.
Well, thank you for asking me to be here. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah. And hopefully now, 20 years past this incident, we can do a little bit more to remember those folks who were lost, and maybe spread that message of kindness in their name, and hopefully that will cause some folks to maybe re-examine their lives if they run into that kindness. And you never know who it is that you're going to affect with the kindness. You don't know what kind of an impact you're going to have on somebody just by being a kind person in general. There are a lot of people that I've run into in my past that I remember them specifically because they went above and beyond to be a kind person, no matter what was going on. So, all right, anything else, Mike?
No, like I said, you hit it there. Just be kind. You never know what everybody's going through at that time, you know?
Yeah.
And it can be like a chain. You could be kind to that person, and they're going to, think about that and pass it on and pass it. And that's just one step better to making somebody's day that much better.
Yeah.
And to some folks, that just means the world.
Yeah.
Just be kind.
Just be kind. All right. The last thing I want to do here before we wrap up is, you may not know this, but you may know it. Steve Buscemi, the actor, was a firefighter before he became an actor. And that morning of September 11th, when he got word of the events happening in downtown New York, I don't remember exactly where he was hearing this story, but he dropped what he was doing, went straight to his old fire department, which was one of the Manhattan precincts, and got to work. It didn't matter that he was an actor at that point that had made, however much money doing movies with Adam Sandler and whoever else. He was a firefighter again at that point, and he's one of my favorite actors because of that. I have sought out to watch all of the things that he is in because that impressed me that much when I had heard about it. So the last thing I'm going to do here before wrapping up is I'm going to play a short video of Steve Buscemi hosting a 9/11 tribute on PBS. It's just a short 4 or 5 minute video segment of the thing that he did for PBS. This was done back in May of this year, I believe. And what he has to say in this video really, to me, sums up what I think we should be feeling about 9/11 as a whole, and then how we can take those feelings and move forward with them. So thanks again for joining us, and thank you, Duem, for being my counterpart on this. And take it away, Steve.
We woke to a bright September day full of promise. We were taking kids to school, going to work, having coffee with friends. And then the phone calls began. Oh my God, a plane hit the World Trade Center? How could that happen? Are you watching this? Turn on your TV. And a morning that began so sunny and bright was the beginning of America's darkest hours. We watched in disbelief at the flames from the North Tower shooting into the sky, the air filling with smoke, and then Flight 175 flies full force into the second tower. The city's bravest and finest running towards danger to help save those fleeing from it. Images that can never be erased from memory, pictures that will never be lost to time. There's confusion and chaos, and every passing minute brings a new tragedy. A third jet veers into DC airspace at ground level, exploding in the nerve center of our national defense, killing over 200 people. Heroes in uniform and civilian workers rushed to the rescue, leading thousands to safety and evacuating children into Pentagon Daycare Center. Over 100 miles away, in the sky over Pennsylvania, passengers on Flight 93 call their loved ones to say goodbye, and then launch a courageous attack to regain control of the plane. It plunges into an isolated field in Shanksville. But the sacrifice of those on board that day saves countless lives in our nation's capital. Then, as thousands watch from the streets and tens of millions watch at home, the South Tower collapses. 102 minutes after the first attack, the North Tower falls. In less than 2 hours, almost 3,000 human souls were lost. They were moms and dads, sons and daughters, senior citizens with fond memories of days past, and young people with dreams of tomorrow. And it didn't matter their color or religion, who they were, or where they were from, for on that day, they all were our brothers and sisters. At Manhattan's Engine Company 55, where I worked for a few years, the guys I served with each knew 20 to 30 firefighters who made the ultimate sacrifice. 5,000 children lost a parent that day. 5,000. 880 of them were firefighters' kids. In the hours that followed, we did more than mourn. Our grief and anger were the catalyst to bring Americans together, doing whatever we could to help, donating blood, giving comfort to friends and to strangers alike, searching for survivors. But there were so few to find. As day turned into night that September 11th, 20 years ago, a skyline and a nation were forever changed. But the fires that burned helped forge a spirit of unity. From the dust and debris, heroes arose. And the memorials that stand today on those hallowed grounds remind us of the promises we made to those we lost and to their families that we will never forget.